Guys. Happy National Coming Out Day on October 11th. Today is a really big day for a lot of people. It's often a really exhilarating day, but also sometimes a stressful day for people. So, um, congratulations to anyone who's participating today. And just, it's never just one day you're kind of out to everyone. It's always going to be a process and very individual to each person. But I'm really excited for those of you who are participating, and for those who are not, for whatever reason, you're also equally valid. I mean, sometimes it isn't safe or the right timing, or you might not feel ready, or you might not want to make a part of yourself public, and that's totally fine and totally valid as well. So, congrats to everybody today, and yeah, it's fantastic that this is something that's come out more on social media. Of course, it would be nice to not have to have a special day to make it public. It would be cool to have that kind of acceptance, but it's it's a decent step forward for sure. Today, I also wanted to talk a little bit about active listening. So I know I've been spamming you, and Jennifer and I have both been spamming you for a lot of videos. But this is something that I think is really important, especially for people in the sciences. A lot of us get really excited about what we talk about, but active listening is a really important skill to cultivate because it helps build relationships, make sure everyone's heard, make sure everyone understands, so you're all on the same page and work towards collaboration. So active listening is neutral, it's patient, and you also use nonverbal signals such as making eye contact, listening, um, leaning in, mirroring that kind of behavior. Asking questions is really important, especially when someone someone's having a conversation with you. Is a good thing to ask questions because it shows that you're actively engaged and you're listening to them and you care about what they have to say. And oftentimes, if you don't have a question, also reflecting back what is said so they can clarify. You can also ask for clarification and summarize just to show that you're engaged in what people have to say. Some of the opposite behaviors that is really important to watch out for in meetings is, for example, not making eye contact, rushing speakers, kind of being stuck in your own head, becoming too distracted, or focusing too much on the details, missing the big picture, daydreaming, and not exactly paying attention. A lot of the times, this isn't something that people are doing on purpose. It's just that their heads are in a different place. But it's good to kind of, when you see yourself, start to check out in a conversation, to stop yourself and talk about, think about exactly what's being said um, in the meeting, which is really important. So there's many benefits about this. So as I mentioned before, relationships, it allows you to kind of be empathetic with somebody and see what they're saying from their point of view. And it's also important for you because it keeps you from missing information that may be important later on. And it also validates the speaker. So someone who's being actively listened to will want to speak longer. And you start to build those relationships to be able to share information in kind of an open and communicative way. Um, and this is really important in terms of just, it could be put into place in meetings or in social situations, like with a good friend. But it's useful in all aspects of life. And I think, not just in STEM, but in all other fields. But I wanted to bring it up today because I think that that's something that's come up a lot in terms of skills that, scientists, we as scientists could get better at. And that's making sure that we're being engaged and listening to other people. So just some tips as to, how to practice better active listening. Like I said before, eye contact's great. So you don't want to like stare at someone, Mark Zuckerberg them too much, because that's unsettling. But I think it's important to, kind of maintain some eye contact, maybe 60, 70% of the time. Make sure that you're, engaged in what they're saying, that you look engaged, that you're not glancing around or looking down at the table or not paying attention to what the other person's saying. And instead of offering unsolicited advice, you might want to paraphrase what someone said. So you could be like, in other words, what you're saying is, rather than just immediately offer advice, because they might not be asking for advice. And that's a good thing to, sometimes it's a good thing to ask. You're like, do you want my input on this, or do you want my advice on this? Because they might not necessarily be asking for that. And then this is really important. Don't interrupt people. This can be really discouraging to a person, and it's not necessarily good for the conversation because the conversation stalls and stops, and then you're not communicating effectively. So when you're listening to a person, make sure you're not preparing your response as you're listening to the person. Make sure that you're actually taking in what they're saying and formulating it in your head and understanding it, not just kind of coming up with what you want to say next. Um, and then also make sure you're looking at nonverbal behavior because that's also a way to pick up on information. Don't just, you know, listen to what they're saying, but how they're saying it. And try to avoid internal dialogue. So try to avoid kind of daydreaming or kind of letting your head go into a different place. Make sure that you're present in the room when someone else is speaking. Not just you're physically present, but you're mentally present as well when they're talking. And ask questions. I mean, as they're talking, you might want to learn more. So you could ask open-ended questions to encourage the speaker as they're continuing to talk, rather than yes, no, because that can shut down conversation. But just open-ended questions. Let the subject kind of stay where the subject is. Try to avoid abruptly changing subjects, and make sure that you're being open and without any judgment, um, neutral, and be patient. So sometimes certain people, they'll take longer to get to a point than others, and that's something that I personally struggled with, and continue kind of to have to work on. Is if someone's going to take a long time to kind of get to where they're going, it's not helpful to try to hurry them along. They're going to go at their own pace, and what they're saying is important. So being patient when someone else is talking. And another good thing is to learn how to recognize active listening. So if you're in a room with your colleagues, see who is checked in or see who's checked out. Watch television interviews and look to see if the interviewer is trying to practice active listening and engaging. And that's something that I'm personally trying to make sure that I'm doing when I'm doing my interviews, is I want to actively listen to what the other person is saying. So yeah, this is just kind of they're often called soft skills. So these are skills that you don't necessarily take a course on, but they're really important for having good relationships. Personal relationships, professional relationships, making sure that everyone's on the same page. So yeah, so happy Friday. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend and looking forward to seeing you again soon. So this is Gabby from Breaking Bio signing off, and we'll have new videos for you coming up in the next week and the week after that. So continue on the channel. Bye, guys.